So there really isn't a big secret when it comes to selling your home and getting the most for it in the shortest amount of time possible, or to get all of your expectations and your needs met. But there's really a process. It's not a secret, but there's a process that you'll want to take no matter who your real estate agent is. It's a process that we've used recently. In the same neighborhood, we had 2 record sales this year, one of them for the highest price in the neighborhood and the other one for the highest price per square foot. And in both instances, we used the same process that got the property ready, got the buyers or the sellers in the right mindset with the right expectations, and helped us to do everything that we needed to do to get them the most for their homes. So in this video, I'm gonna go over, it's 9 to 10 steps that we took on both of these properties to get those record sales. If you don't know me, my name is Mike Velez. I'm the broker and owner of Building Realty here in Chino Hills. We service the Chino Valley and the surrounding area, basically the Western Inland Empire. But if you're anywhere watching this video and you have any questions, please feel free to DM me or email me directly. All the contact information is down below. So just like anything, the first step is planning. The sooner that you can get in touch with a qualified realtor to discuss your plans of your sale, the better. So that planning that you do ahead of time, not just like the week before you want to list it, but if you can, a few months before, get in touch with somebody that you trust, somebody that's, does a good job in your neighborhood, or contact me. So in that planning process, we can talk about things that need to be done to the property. On these 2 particular sales, let's say property A and property B. So on property A, we actually met in the end of last year. So maybe like December of 2023, and his property went on the market at the end of February. So it was about a 2-3 month stretch ahead of time. We met, I went and took a look at the property. He had some unfinished work that he wanted to complete, backsplash in the kitchen, tile in the bathroom, and a few other little things. And we went over what is going to give him the most return on investment. So having that little bit of insight a few months ahead of time goes a long way. You don't want to do certain things that are going to maybe hurt the value, maybe selecting a color or an option that is really specific to your taste. That's usually not a good idea. So talking to somebody that's out there in the field that has the experience, they know what buyers are looking for. I usually have at least 3 or 4 buyers that I'm working with at any point in time. So I'm always getting feedback from them on what they like and don't like, specifically in this community. So Chino Hills, Chino, Eastvale, that area, I know what their tastes are. So, if you're thinking of selling your house and you bring me in ahead of time, I can tell you, the dark pink is not gonna look good, or, it's not gonna be a winner. And we can kind of go over those details. So planning is very important, and also timing. So the sooner that you talk to somebody, you'll get an idea of when the busy season is in your area, and it fluctuates. In Southern California, pretty much, all of Southern California has that same kind of seasonal adjustment. But when you compare, say, Southern California to Maine, there's a completely different selling season. So completely different. You can research this on Zillow or those sites, and they've done this data, and they'll tell you when the peak times are for each area of the country. So look for that depending where you're at, where you're viewing this video. But like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Markets change, and they can change quickly. If there's a big adjustment in the interest rates, that's going to impact the market. If we get some bad news, or if there's a black swan event, well, that can always change things. So the further ahead you can start the planning process, you'll be better prepared if something should change. Are you thinking of relocating to Chino Hills, Chino, Eastvale, or the surrounding area? Well, if you have, I've got something just for you. My team and I have actually taken the time to create the Ultimate Relocation Guide, which is meant to save you hours of research, and I've created a link right down below. From the top employers, the best shopping, the best restaurants, a boatload of information that you need to know before relocating to the area. The best part is this guide is absolutely free. Just click on the link in the description or the top pinned comment, and I'll send it to you right away. Number 2, preparation. Now, as a realtor that's been doing this for quite a while, there is nothing more infuriating or upsetting. I don't get infuriated very often. That's a term I don't really use. But anyway, there's nothing more upsetting than popping open the MLS every morning like I do and seeing a listing of what could be a beautiful house where there's just no effort put into it. There's dirty dishes in the sink, the toilet seats are open, the photos are bad, they're dark, you can't see things. These are $1 million houses, and they're taking pictures on their phone. And sometimes there are some agents out there that, you know, that it works for them, but there are times when there's like no preparation, no effort, and you got to put yourselves in the mindset of the buyer. Okay, so I am going to give you a little secret. When I have buyers that are looking to get a deal and get a discount, I tell them, look for those ugly houses, the ones that where they, you know, the place is a mess, you can't even see the walls, they're covered with junk or whatever it is. Those are the ones that are going to get the least attention online. That means there's going to be fewer buyers competing for that property. At the end of the day, the seller is going to make much less than they could have had they done some preparation ahead of time, worked with a realtor that would be embarrassed to display a property like that, and really put your best foot forward. So just like so many things, you know, you get that first impression is huge, and when it comes to getting your property on the market, do the preparation ahead of time. Now, those two properties that we talked about, A and B, on that first property, property A, this is the one that set the record for cost per square foot. And we did a complete thorough cleaning. We do this on all of our listings, but on this one we did a complete thorough cleaning. The furniture and the way the house was set up was pretty nice. We did a minimal amount of staging, and it just looked really good, photographed well. That one, like I said, it went on the market in March, February, end of February, beginning of March, and we started preparing a few months ahead of time. So, and then the other one, property B, that one took a little bit more work. The clients were actually moving out of state, and we got the property completely empty. There was 32 windows, I think, in the house. So we had our window cleaner come out, and he did a complete thorough cleaning of the windows inside and out. They were new windows, so it really showed off the fact that these were brand new windows. The house was 30-something years old, and they invested in new windows, which are a great investment. You usually get your return on investment on those. And having them cleaned professionally really, you know, made them pop. So in this house, like I said, we did complete window cleaning inside and out, and then we actually had a painter. I have a painter that I have, not really on staff, but I have a painter that I use all the time. And there was a room when they moved out, the kids had made some artwork on the walls. So we had that repainted, did some touch-ups in the house, all prior to staging. So that's another thing, staging. Now, staging is really important. I didn't become a huge fan of staging until just recently, when I saw for myself the effect that it can have on the final sale price. So new construction homes, whenever you go into a new construction home, it's perfect. I mean, you just want to sit right there, plunk down, get your pillow, and, you know, call it a day. This is the house that we want. Well, builders have all the time and all the money to present a property in the best light possible, and they always use staging. You never go into a new build where it's vacant. So huge tip, it's not cheap. Staging can run into the thousands and thousands of dollars depending on the size of the home. But for the most part, it is a wise investment. We've actually started doing our own staging. I have a professional stager. It's actually my sister, and she is out in Texas. So what we do, our process is we do a FaceTime. I go over the house with her, we do FaceTime, we send her videos. She knows our inventory of furniture. She tells us where to put stuff. We have our movers come in, and we bring in our own staging. And on property B, where we got the highest sale price in the neighborhood of all time, that was completely staged by us in this process. So, and since then, we've added more staging. We've got enough for a couple houses now. And it really does make a difference. So don't cheap out on the staging, especially if the house is going to be vacant. All the more reason to do it. If you have to live with the staging, you know, talk to your professional. There's things that you can kind of work around where it's not going to inconvenience you too much if you're still living in the house and you've got to, you know, brush your teeth and cook dinner and do all the other things that you have to do. But staging is a big plus, definitely do it. Number 4, marketing campaign. So this is one thing where I don't think a lot of agents or sellers pay as much attention as they should. So back in the early 90s, I did mortgages for a while, for a couple of years, and then I was in the magazine business for 23 years. So I was a publisher, we had 4 different magazines, nationally distributed all over the place. So I've got a deep background in print, which isn't as big as it used to be. You know, I can't remember the last time I bought a magazine, but that tactile feel of a nice brochure that looks good with really good quality photography, I think goes a long way, especially when you look at even a starter home is $500,000 and up now. So there's really no such thing as a cheap property. We're talking, you know, housing is expensive these days, and putting the effort and energy, a strong marketing campaign, I like print. We'll distribute postcards through the neighborhood, let's say 300, 400, depending on the size of the community. We'll do mailing. We will have excellent brochures at the property so that when people take it home, if let's say they were looking at 6 or 7 houses on the day and they have this beautiful brochure that they've taken home with them, your property sticks out. As the seller, your property they're going to remember. Back in the old days before the internet, you'd go in to look at new cars and you'd go home with a brochure and you'd hang on to that brochure and you'd study it and you'd read it 10 times. Well, people still do that. The point is, a strong print campaign definitely helps your property stand up. Now, then we get into the digital side. So promoting your home on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, getting the property out there. There's places where people go to look for houses. They're in the market. So your Zillows, your Realtor.coms, your Redfins, and they are looking. But there's also that person that isn't raising their hand yet that they're a buyer. It's midnight, they're on Facebook, and they see an ad for your property. And they say, hey, I know that neighborhood. I like that neighborhood. Johnny lives down the street there. I wouldn't mind living there. So they might not have been looking for a home, but when they see an opportunity to move into a neighborhood that they want to move into, well, there you go. Now you've got a new buyer. So you might not have reached that buyer if you just relied on the standard, throw it up online and let it take care of itself. So print and a digital campaign is definitely a way to increase the number of buyers looking at your property, and at the end of the day, get you the most for your home. Number 5, pricing. So pricing your property appropriately is huge. It's one of those things, so I'm talking to you as a seller. I know you love your house. I know you have all these memories there. It's a beautiful home. You put a lot of work into it, but I need you to detach from that and put yourself in the position of the buyer. What would you pay for your home? Now, if let's say houses in the neighborhood are going for $1 million and yours is kind of like that typical home, sure, you've got, really nice flooring, or you redid the windows recently, and you're thinking, well, my house is worth $1.3 million. Chances are it's not. So detach yourself from that, put your buyer hat on, look at your house as if you were going to write that check. Would you buy your house for 1.3 when the house down the street is at $1 million? So keep that in mind. There are some markets where you can price aggressively. So if we look back like 2001, I had a property up in Rancho Cucamonga, and Shelly was her name. She was insistent that her house was worth 30 grand more than everything else in the neighborhood. We stuck with it. The house was on the market for quite a while. I want to say it was probably about 90 days, which in that market was pretty crazy. But eventually, the market caught up to her price. Now, the odds of that happening, not very good. Like, it was against the probability of it sitting on the market longer was probably there, but it's a rare instance. In this market right now, going 30, 40, or let's say 2 or 3% above where the market is probably not a good idea. There are fewer buyers out there than there were in 2021 when interest rates were in the 3s. So we're looking at a different environment right now, and you don't want to be above the market. You want to be at or below. That is what's going to get the most eyeballs on your home, and the more eyeballs you get on the home, the more people you're going to get into the home. And you really want to get them into the property to see it and to fall in love with it. So if you've done all the work ahead of time, you've done the preparation, you've done the staging, that's what you're waiting for, is for them to get in the home and feel like this is where they want to live. So coming up with that number, how do you determine what is at the market or below, or having a good idea of where the market is? Well, you can look at the comps, you can look at the sales that have happened in the past, but those are backward looking numbers. And so they're not even, let's say a house closed in July. Well, the house was negotiated in June, or maybe even before that. What was the market like then? Where were interest rates? How many days on market were going on? So you can take that information and you can kind of filter it with other data and come up with what you feel like the market is for that property at that moment in time, depending where interest rates are, how much traffic is when you go to an open house and you kind of see how much traffic is going on in the community. You can look at the MLS, you can see how many closings there's there's been, how many properties have gone pending, which is under contract. So once we've gone through all those numbers, we kind of get a feel for where the market is and kind of get a gut feeling. And then we'll test that gut with some other additional data. So we use two programs regularly to kind of see where things are. One of them is called Altos Research. If you search for Altos Research on YouTube, you're going to see some videos that they do, Mike Simon, and they keep track of what's going on in the MLS, and it's very up to date. It's updated weekly. We can kind of see how many buyers are in the market and where they're looking at, how long, all the data you can think of, very granular for that moment in time. And then the other program that we use that actually gives us a lot of insight is a program called Real Scout. And in there, they have an option to test the market. Now, Real Scout is used by a bunch of agents throughout the country and locally, that when you become a buyer with an agent and they use this service, they're going to send you properties. They're going to put into the system what you're looking for, how many bedrooms, price points, neighborhoods you're open into. And if you subscribe to this, you get access to all that data. Now, I can't see who those specific buyers are, but I can see how many people use this software, and out of those people, how many of their clients are looking for a house like mine in that market, and I can see what the numbers are. So we'll get our gut feeling, we'll put it into Real Scout, and from there it'll tell us like, okay, this is our gut price. Let's say on this $1 million house, we're gonna be aggressive, we're gonna $1,050,000. Now it's gonna tell us specifically how many people using Real Scout are looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in Chino Hills on this street. You put in the address, and it'll really tell us exactly how many people are in the market for that house that use this software. Now, that's not the entire universe of buyers, but it's a sample that's good enough to kind of see if we adjust the price. Let's say we go down 2%. How is that going to impact the number of buyers out there for us? Or if we go up 2%, what's that going to change? And we can extrapolate all the way around. We can test with different numbers. And from that, using our gut and using that data, we come up with the specific numbers. So on these two properties, property A, the first one that went on the market, this is the one that set the record for cost per square foot. $968 was the price that we arrived at. This was the optimal price to go with. And that one ended up selling at $1,060,000, so $90,000 over. Now, could I make an argument that maybe our price was too low? It's possible, but that price that we determined would have been a record for that size of home in the neighborhood. So we were right at where the market was. But the way that we presented it, everything that came into place, we managed to set that new record, which kind of elevated the level for the neighborhood and the surrounding area. Nobody's beat that price yet on a cost per square foot. I don't think they will. I think it's going to stand for a while. But the other one, we used the exact same method, and our listing price was 1.25, so $1,250,000. And that one ended up closing at $1,290,000. So in both instances, we used the same circumstance, and in both cases, we set a new record for the neighborhood, and we got our sellers the most that we could get on that table. The table that everybody talks about. We don't want to leave any money on the table. I want to do the most I can for our sellers. And in these two cases, that's what we did. As much as I love making these videos, there's something I love doing even more, and that's helping families and people both move in and out of the area. So whether you are in Maine or in Florida and you're thinking about moving to Chino Hills, the Inland Empire, I want to help you. Or if you're a resident of the area and you want a change of scenery and you're planning to move out of the area, I want to help you there too. Now, whether you're planning on doing something right away or maybe not until next year, I want to help you from the start. My contact information is on the screen, and it's also linked down below in the description. So please feel free to reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever it takes, let's talk. I want to help you whether you're coming or going. So number 6, now this one kind of goes back to the marketing plan, and that's massive exposure. The more people that see your property, the more eyeballs on it, the more people that are going to funnel in and see it in person. So Zillow is kind of the king of real estate portals. More people are searching for homes on there. There's one called homes.com. Their numbers don't seem to correlate with what I see when people come in to an open house. I ask them, where they saw it. They'll tell me Zillow, they'll tell me Redfin, they'll say realtor.com. I've had maybe 2 people say that they saw a property on homes.com. So one nice thing about Zillow is they're pretty transparent on the data. So you could look at any active listing. You can see how long it's been on Zillow, which isn't necessarily on the market, so keep that in mind. But you can see how many days it's been on Zillow. You can see how many people have viewed it and how many people have saved it. Now, I get super competitive at times, so when I have a listing that comes out on the market, right about the same time, maybe we're at the same price point, I'm refreshing all day long, kind of keeping an eye on things and making sure that our listing is getting more views and more saves. And 99.9% of the time that is the case, but massive exposure. You want your property to be seen by everybody everywhere. So that's where having a paid campaign to get it out there on the social media and making sure it presents really well. Zillow has a new option that they've been using called Showcase. It's been on the market for about almost a year now, and they present the properties in a little bit of a different way. You'll see, if you're on the Zillow map, you'll see a little icon next to a showcase house, and it just presents a little bit different. According to them, I don't know that these numbers bear out, but according to them, those properties get about 60% more views, which, at the end of the day, whatever it takes to get as many eyeballs on the property, that's what's going to be best for the seller. You as the seller, that's going to get you the most money. So number 7, showings and open houses. Now, locally here in Chino Hills, if I have a listing that's within 10 miles, I like to be or have one of our agents at every showing. It's really important when you watch $1 Million Listing and you see those beautiful $40, $50 million homes, you never see the showing agent fumbling with a lockbox, because the listing agent or a representative of the seller is always at the property. And that should be the case for every house, in my belief. So for our listings that were within 10 miles or even 15, we want to be at every showing. We're always there because we're there to sell the house. When you interview a seller and you ask all the details, you might get a story behind, why they chose that stove. And being able to communicate to the buyer and the buyer's agent, it goes a long way in my eyes. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't sell a house the other way and just leaving the lockbox out. That's completely up to you. It's just the way that I do it. That's the way I like to do it. Especially, when I have a buyer and let's say we've looked at 5 or 6 houses on the day, they're tired. They don't necessarily remember everything about each house, but if they had somebody there that was going over everything, it makes a difference. And I think that everybody should have somebody there in their corner representing their property when it's being shown. So, and that kind of goes into open houses. Right now, open houses are more important than they've ever been since the recent rule changes with NAR. A lot of buyers, they don't want to commit. It's a relationship. So, and when they see a house on Zillow or Realtor.com and they click the button and they make contact with a realtor, they don't know them, and then the realtor says, hey, we've got to set up this agreement and I'm going to send you a contract. There is a lot of apprehension for that, and there's some people that just don't want to sign anything, so they figure, okay, well, I'll just go on the open house since I don't have to sign anything. And that's true. You don't have to. If somebody has an open house going on, they're working for the seller. They show you the property. It's a service to the seller. You don't have to sign a buyer-broker agreement with that agent showing the property in an open house. So a lot more people are foregoing getting a buyer's agent from the start, which they shouldn't. They could get themselves in a pickle there, but they'll go to the open houses because they don't have to commit to anything. So open houses are that much more important. There used to be a time where you could argue that open houses were more for the agents, but right now open houses are for the sellers. You want to have open houses. The more the better. You want to have open houses. So we'll just leave it at that. Number 8, negotiation. Now, everything that we've done before is to get to this point where we have buyers, we have offers, and we have negotiations. That's where the real magic happens. An agent that knows how to negotiate in cases like this is where they're going to earn their money. So they are going to make the difference between a record sale and a price reduction, or having to price reduce. When it comes to negotiation, you have to have leverage. So if you have more than one buyer, you now have leverage. When you have one offer, one buyer, you've got no leverage. So having multiple offers on your property gives you that leverage so that you can get the most for your client, or the seller can get the most money for their home once you have those multiple offers. So in the cases of those 2 houses, I can't remember the exact numbers. I think we had 11 on the first one and maybe 9 on the second. And each time we use those multiple offers to negotiate the highest price possible for our sellers. So that's super important. When you're choosing a realtor, talk about their negotiation skills. If they immediately start selling themselves short, I'll discount my price and this and that. Well, if they can't negotiate an adequate compensation for themselves, what are they going to do when they're working for you? So keep that in mind when choosing a realtor. Negotiation goes a long way. Number 9. Now, once you get into escrow, you might be thinking, hey, we're done. This was easy. Then not quite, because lots of times you have second negotiations that go on. If the hard work was done early on, you can negotiate a lot of things out of escrow, meaning you can shorten contingencies or having them removed. Again, it depends on the market. Right now, we're still in a relatively strong seller's market just because of the lack of inventory, but it's shifted. It's not, sellers are not in the same position they were a couple of years ago. So that skill set for escrow, you might have things that come up in an inspection that the buyer wasn't prepared for, or that maybe a negotiation tactic where they're kind of bluffing, they're threatening to walk, where you need to know how to handle it, like figure out if you should call their bluff or they're not bluffing and you don't want to lose that buyer. So there's different things that go on after you're in escrow that are extremely important. There's too many scenarios to comprehend. One that comes to mind for me, we had somebody that was questioning a crack in the exterior of the house, and they thought that the foundation might be cracked. And so I met with the foundation inspector, and he starts telling me that he has a lot of investor clients that will just order the foundation inspection even when there's no evidence of any problems, and they use it as leverage because it kind of spooks the seller. If you have a foundation issue, it's an expensive fix, or can be an expensive fix depending on the severity of it. But sellers will immediately get afraid of that. And before the inspection, they might offer up a discount because they don't want to go through that process. Because if the inspection, let's say it does find that the foundation is lower on one end of the house and it needs to be put up on piers, that could be an expensive fix. And now that you know that, if let's say that buyer cancels, you have to disclose that to the next seller, that this inspection has been done and it's found a problem with the property. So that could stick with you through the process. And he pretty much told me that it's a tactic. It's a tactic that the buyer will use to negotiate a better price. So things like that do come up. So we handled it. We let them do their inspection. We had a previous inspection. We're pretty confident there were no issues with the foundation. So we rolled the dice and went with it. And what do you know? They didn't find anything wrong. So we called their bluff, and we ended up closing above ask. I can't remember the details. It was in Eastville back in January. But anyway, those are things that come up in escrow. So just because you're in escrow doesn't mean it's over. You still need to have somebody out there looking out for you. That is pretty much it. And then after the close, things do come up. Questions happen where things properly disclosed. Have an agent that knows what they're doing. Make sure that you don't get yourself into trouble when it comes time for disclosures, because those are things that could bite you back if it's not done properly during the process. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I probably went kind of long. I don't know what time it is, but I like to talk a lot. If you're in Southern California, feel free to reach out to me. My information is down below. And wherever you are, I hope you'll click subscribe and like this video. And I plan to show you a lot of content on a regular basis here. Right now, I think we've got like 2 subscribers, and by the end of the year, our goal is 1,000 subscribers. So we're either gonna hit it or gonna fail miserably. So either way, tune in and find out, if we get it or not. That's it. I'm Mike Velez at Building Realty, broker, owner, and have a good day.